Thank you for waiting. We are a little bit earlier than the scheduled time, but we would like to start the keynote lecture because the speaker is ready. The speaker, Mr. Yukihiro Matsumoto, is the chairman of RubyWorld Conference Executive Committee of the RubyWorld Conference and also the Director General of Ruby Association. And he is internationally recognized as the development engineer of Ruby. His title is MythBuster. Could you please go ahead, Mr. Matsumoto? Good morning again. I appear on the stage so many occasions on Ruby World Conference, so I'm again on the stage. Today, I would like to speak with the title MythBuster. Well, internet is a huge space, and there are a lot of kind and generous people. There are probably too many kind people in the space of internet, we can say. When I developed Ruby and released in the world in 1995, it's already 27 years or so since Ruby was released. And during that time period, 27 years, a lot of people have provided me advice and lot. And Ruby was a scripting language at the very beginning. Then I got an email saying, Ruby is too good to be a scripting language, according to a person who sent me an email. So I wonder what the meaning of too good. That person said that talking about scripting language exists for small program like 10 lines or 100 lines. Doesn't have to be a complex program. So it does not need a full-fledged function as a real scripting language. Therefore, Ruby has something excessive as a scripting language. That's the comment I received about Ruby. Then this is a comment given by another person. Ruby is a scripting language. Probably Ruby does not need OOP, object-oriented programming. Other people said when Ruby was not well known in the world, some people said that no one would use Ruby because they are already using Perl, PHP, and Python. These languages are available. No one would use Ruby. That was the advice I was given in the past. Other people said that it was before Ruby on the Rails was launched. There's no killer application in Ruby. Therefore, Ruby is not attractive enough. That's another person. And this is actually devastating for me because some people said I shouldn't have created Ruby. People can use Perl. So the time and talent investment to be spent on the Ruby should be focused on Perl. Perl is an existing language. Then Perl will be improved and the whole world will be a much better place for us. It was a devastating words for me, but it's none of their business. And some people said Ruby is slow. Thanks to Ruby on Rails, I have been working on web application, and Ruby is used for web application. Then other people started to say that web age is over. There was a artificial intelligence, machine learning, and Web3 will be active in the world. Probably Ruby will not be required. Other people started to say Ruby is dead or Ruby is dead every year. Well, Rust, Zig, Go, Python are the kind of the hot topics, and Ruby is not that type. So probably there's no future for Ruby. So these comments actually irritated me. So course, I was a little bit irritated because they inserted Ruby, but mainly because their opinions were not fair enough. For example, talking about Python or Rust, the developer of these language never compare their products with my Ruby. For example, talking about myself, the PHP developer, Perl developer, or Python developer, I have actually met them directly, face to face. And these developers never spoke ill of other languages. So we discussed a lot of things like community issues and others. Like some time ago, Unicode was actually used a lot. I was exchanging opinion about how to use Unicode. As I have already said, some people said Ruby is dead, and the criticism or some negative advice. Probably these are not actually engaged in the development of the language. They consider they actually belong to a majority community, so they want to feel kind of the superiority against Ruby or other languages. So probably they are the kind of the person like a fox that borrows authority of the tiger. So if you are a person belonging to majority, does not mean your language, your technology is superior. So I think you should face the reality. When you actually evaluate something, you should think what is real value in something, not popularity or whether majority or not. You should face the reality and you should take a look at the fact. Talking about MythBusters, this is my title today. It came from the BBC program title, and that was a kind of the program to verify so-called urban legends. So after that urban legend program, I want to verify a kind of the myth or legend related to Ruby. So let's verify myth number one. Myth number one is Ruby is dead. I have been talking about this. You may already be tired of this, but answer is no. Ruby is not dead. Once Ruby became the hot topic, fashionable topic in the world of internet. In 2008, when this conference was held for the first time, Ruby was so popular. Everyone was talking about Ruby. So number of the search, probably ranking of Ruby in terms of the frequency of searching was top 10 all the time, like number 8 or number 5 of all the programming languages. However, recently the Ruby's ranking is 16 or so. So the ranking of Ruby is now lower by 8 places or so. So the Ruby's ranking is a little bit lower in terms of popularity, but does that mean less people or no people are using Ruby? No. Still, many people are using Ruby and they feel Ruby is attractive. That's the reason why so many people decided to come to Shimane to attend this kind of conference. I'm not forcing you to say yes, but anyway, so many people are using Ruby because Ruby can offer higher productivity. That's one reason. Or Ruby has a great community. So the reason for some people to use Ruby. Other people consider it's enjoyable, it's fun to use Ruby. So this is my goal of developing Ruby. This is my real goal. And some people want to use Ruby for fun, for joy. Or Ruby is actually lucrative. They can make money. That's the reason why they use Ruby. This is so-called top Ruby companies, one of the websites my friends created. So there are a lot of companies who say they are using Ruby. So we actually had search and public companies which say they are using Ruby. And this is a site to show the total market value of the companies which use Ruby. Number one comes Airbnb. They are implementing service using Ruby. I actually visited Airbnb to have discussion over there, and 1/3 of them using Java. And front is JavaScript, and back end is made of JRuby. That means they use Ruby a lot. We are very thankful. Followed by Shopify, number 2. Tomorrow's keynote speaker, Mr. Alan Patterson, is working for Shopify. Shopify is number one company, one of the major companies in Canada, which contributes a lot to Ruby. Well, talking about market capitalization, Airbnb is 16.2 billion, and Shopify, second, 39.4 billion, almost $40 billion. So it's a huge amount of market capitalization by these top 2 companies, followed by other companies. Let's take a look at GitLab, number 7. Or Carpat and Monday. I have been a user of these products, including these companies. So many companies are using Ruby. So these are public companies only. So if we include private companies, we can say more companies are using Ruby. Let's take a look at another data. This is Y Combinator. This is the venture capital graduates came up with top 50 software startups. So I just have the excerpt from their blog. And very sorry, it's not visible enough. Ranking number one is a Stripe. Company's name is Stripe, followed by Cruise, Airbnb, and DoorDash, Twitch, and Instacart. Among them, you can say third one is technology stack. Stripe is using Ruby. And number 2, Cruise using C++, Python. And number 3, Airbnb using Ruby. And DoorDash, Python. And Twitch, C++, Ruby. And Instacart using Ruby. So I think a lot of companies are actually using Ruby. So this is aggregated statistics. So out of top 50, 13 companies are using, that is 26%. In terms of total valuation, 52% of them so using Rubies. So the total valuation of the top 50 companies, 52% of this total valuation was generated by Ruby. I'm not sure whether or not total valuation is the most appropriate indicator, but anyway, like $60 billion or tens of $billions have been created with support of Ruby. Of course, this is not contributed only by Ruby. Of course, it's because of the contribution by great efforts and hard-working employees. But anyway, Ruby is contributing to these companies. Then probably we can ignore noises or negative criticism or negative opinions. So if I listen to the advice related to the internet, and if I start to think that maybe I should start working on Ruby and concentrate on Perl, or Ruby should not be too much complicated. And but if I have done that, probably today's Ruby wouldn't have existed. Then, as long as we can create value, probably we do not have to listen to the noise or the negative opinion of other people, and it is important to keep moving forward. Of course, Ruby is not a perfect language, so we have to keep moving toward the future in order to improve Ruby. Now, what is the best feature of Ruby? Of course, it's a fun language. That's one thing. However, I think the best thing about user is the velocity, speed of the Ruby. How speedily provide service to the users. In terms of velocity, Ruby is really excellent. Ruby is so fast and quick. So not only high productivity, but deployment speed of the service is short. That is very important point.
So the first myth, the Ruby is dead, that is wrong. And the myth 2, that is static typing. Static typing is becoming popular, and then the most famous one is Rust, and oftentimes you may have seen an article of Rust is just added or incorporated into the system. And static typing is newer, but as a matter of fact, static typing is not new, because when it comes to the first programming language, that is a Fortran, that was created in 1954, and Fortran is a statically typed program. And then, so when you think about this one, yes, the static typing is rather old, and that is related to myth 3. The static typing is better. Some people say this way, particularly from 2010s and others. There are many new programming languages, and that is many of them of static typing, Kotlin and Swan, and Rust, and others. So, and so static typing is better, and that's why many these newer programming languages just have this kind of feature. But there are many pros and cons. Static typing has many pros and cons. That's why there is some declaration of type, and PHP it has a type declaration, and that is also true for Python. And a JavaScript that is turned to TypeScript with the type declaration. Then why we have to do with Ruby? That is not a clear question. Going back to the type declaration, what is the pros? For example, if you have type information, then you can just do the comprehensive checks without actually running a program. And then type information, actually that works as a documentation. And with type information, you can have a lot of more information, and then that can have a better IDE support. And then just by writing the program, you may be able to find errors with type checking and variables and functions. Perhaps you may have some additional function or feature to make up for that kind of functions. And with the type of declaration, many people say that performance is better. But when it comes to cons of static typing, there are some actually. The one is well, this is just my personal impression, but that is verbose. And then, yes, like Ruby, program can work without any type of declaration. And then if you have to write a type declaration that is redundant or verbose, so that is not concise, and don't repeat yourself. You are just breaking that kind of a basic rule, biggest rule of language programming. And then when I read some article just recently published, and type declaration that is that can be tuned as a type declaration. So type declaration to write algorithm itself. So that is a quite complex and complexity, and is it true that you want to just get that kind of a complexity into your program? And then also within the community with the type declaration, some people say that or just a point that your program do not have any type of declaration. Sometimes people will just criticize each other depending on if there is a type of declaration or not. And actually that kind of things happen in the other programming language community. So this may be a kind of a destroying factor for Ruby community, I think. And the 2010s and the 2020s, yes, the static typing is just a cool, and many people just believe that the static typing is cool. But when it go back to 1990s and 2000, the Ruby and Python and the JavaScript, yes, in those days, dynamic typed languages were cool. And Ruby, PHP, Python, JavaScript, all these languages were dynamic typed languages. So, again, the Fortran, that is rather statically typed, and the next one, dynamic, and the C, that is static, and object score language, that is more dynamic. So that means popularity comes and goes. That is not a fixed one. So you don't need to just move on kind of a bandwagon in that particular area. You should not just move or go this and way and that in the wind, because Ruby has a very long life, and then we are going to have a 30-year anniversary next year about the birth of Ruby, and even just further into the future, there is no day that we are going to see the extinction of Ruby. So that means, do we really need to just incorporate a type declaration in Ruby as well? And that is a very critical, important point. There are many pros and cons with type declaration. In spite of that kind of cons, is it truly necessary to just add a type declaration to the Ruby programming? I just make this question to myself, and my answer is no. But static type checking, that is good, I admit. And then that is rather easier and quicker to find errors, and that is related to the higher productivity of programming. But the type declaration is truly necessary for that checking function, but that is also no. And Ruby 3 static typing, a kind of a static typing that is added into Ruby 3. Because type information that is in signature files, that is RBS, Ruby signature. RBS, actually information is not so big, and then the declaration is not complete. And then now Ruby Gem RBS collection, just a type of declaration is just being added later after one, and then also RBS Rails. That kind of a gem has appeared as well, and also type prof. That is quite a simple signature generator that is offered as well, and the Steep, that is a signature-based type analyzer to check the type rather comprehensively. We have just prepared this kind of things. And the type of prof that works as a LSP server, so that means using the type information you can just work. And then, so I don't want to say that these tools are complete, but these tools and then forthcoming tools, perhaps you can have comprehensive checks, and then also the type information can work as documentation, and LSP, using LSP, you can have a better IDE support. So without the type declaration, yes, officially, static typing, you can enjoy using static typing. So we are now at the stage. So now we can get the benefit of static typing in Ruby. But in the case of Ruby, there is no need to put declaration, type declaration. And I'm saying this kind of thing again and again. Perhaps you know this one already, but from a far longer term point of view, as I said before, the tech trend comes and go. So when you just think about the future, 10 years, 15 or 20 years from now, then what is going to happen to the static typing? Will it be still popular as it is now? But personally, just thinking, I think languages without a type declaration might become much more popular in 10 years or 20 years or just 25 years from now, I believe. Because the type of complexity, I think people don't like to think about the complexity of the kind of a type. And then as the program just evolves, it should just eliminate that kind of complexity. And then still, do you want to add some complexity with some type declaration? That is not a good idea. Then, yes, without a type declaration, but still you can have some type information. I think that kind of a program should be much more popular. And then I want Ruby to be one of such languages, such popular languages. I think it depends whether we need to decide whether we need to just add a type declaration or not. So I don't think that is a good idea to just casually or easily decide to put a type declaration to Ruby. So type check, yes, that is in Ruby, but no need of the type declaration. That is my thought. And of course, nobody knows about the future. And then I may be wrong, but I would like to say to the Rubyist of the members of Ruby community, I would like to say, trust me. And then this is my future forecast. And then just trust me with perhaps the programming language without a type declaration. That should be much more popular in the future. And myth 3. That is about dynamic typing. Some people say that dynamic typing is slower. Static typing, the Rust and Go, and compared to these languages, when you write a same thing with Ruby, and then that may be a little bit slower than others. But actually, when it comes to program performance of programming languages, the compilers or the virtual machines, actually, there are perhaps a direct or indirect processing system or not that matters more. And Chrome browser, that is a Mac browser, the V8 JavaScript virtual machine that is included there, and that is a JavaScript, not native JavaScript that is used. So there is no type declaration. And with or without a type declaration, almost a virtual machine can run very quickly, high speed. Because if there is a good technological investment, actually whether there is a type declaration in the programming or not, that doesn't matter. And that is approved with this case. So type declaration or type information for better performance, that is not an absolute requirement. And also V8 is a JIT compiler included, and then it uses a runtime, sorry, JIT compiler, and the JIT compiler just can use a runtime type information. So that means compared to the ordinary compilers, it can have more pieces of type information. So that means runtime type information sometimes may be quicker. So that is necessary. That is required as a technical investment. So not existence or no existence of a type declaration, but still, a V community that is not well just reach, and then it is difficult for them to beat other programs. But Shopify and others, they employ full-time committees, and then they set up new teams to try to do something. And as a result of that, performance is much better than before. And next is myth 4. Well, actually, oftentimes I heard this kind of just a suggestion, or it is, if Ruby is faster, we would like to use a Ruby. Many people said this way. And then this is actually a myth. And when they look at the fact, they are liars. And if or when somebody said that if a Ruby is like this and like that, then I would like to just use a Ruby, then you may just believe that kind of a comment. And then the Ruby is slower, then we want to try to make Ruby fast, and there is no over framework application. Then we would like to just add some more, and JSON support. Yeah, we try to just add JSON support as well.
But we learn something. We should not believe them. So when they said that since Ruby is slow, so we cannot use, then we make Ruby faster, then they said there's another reason of not using Ruby. So we already invest money something, and we do not want to spend any more cost to transfer to Ruby. Then when people do not want to use it, whatever might happen, they will never use Ruby. So that's something we learned through these experiences. So I think, oddly enough, at the earlier timing, there are some people who encounter Ruby and they are impressed and they wanted to use Ruby. There are such people already existing. And when we talk about the Ruby's benefits and how fascinating it is, some people do not feel it at all. When I was young, I tried to speak to such people. I will probably eliminate excuses why you do not use Ruby. However, when people do not want to perceive the benefits or merits of Ruby, it's also impossible to persuade such persons in using Ruby. They may have another reason, like since their friends are using, so they actually tried using it, then they found out Ruby is good enough. But some people just say they do not want to use Ruby, they do not consider Ruby is good. If they have such a kind of fixed way of thinking, it's very difficult, almost impossible to change such people's mind. However, still, performance is very important. We have to improve the performance of Ruby all the time. In the past, we have so-called Ruby 3x3, and we wanted to triple the performance of Ruby. That's what we done before. And thanks to Shopify, so-called YJIT, that is the JIT compiler we introduced to improve performance of Ruby. And Ruby 3.2 is released this year, and YJIT implementation was done using Rust. And this is another case. ARM64, that is CPU, we execute YJIT, and as a preparation, we actually use Rust. So ARM is a CPU manufacturer, actually, and they are more important recently. In recent smartphone, all use CPU made by ARM and so-called M1 Mac or Apple Silicon. And these PC all use ARM products. They use ARM CPU. When we think about these devices, YJIT supported only Intel CPU and other manufacturers' CPU. However, ARM's importance is increased, and more people wanted to use CPU on ARM, and they wanted to use YJIT for ARM. And so far, YJIT was implemented on C, but Rust implementation was to be introduced. MJIT is the old JIT of Ruby. This is not the new one, but YJIT is very excellent. MJIT can be used as a kind of the test bed for experiments. So we tried implementation of Ruby using MJIT. That's something we have done. And running Ruby on RASM or memory allocation to be improved to make performance better, or many thread implementation is to be modified. That project is going on. So thread performance will be improved because of that. So that's what we have been doing to improve performance of Ruby. So I don't think Ruby will be used by more people when Ruby's speed is improved. I don't think so. So the current user will be happy to have the Ruby performance improved. So rather than invite a new user, we would like to make current user happy. That's the reason why I try to improve Ruby more and more. Ruby 3.2 version will be commercially available next month. Now, every year in Christmas season, I release new version 3.2. That's a new version to be released during the Christmas time. Besides, data object will be introduced. Syntax suggest is also something we would like to hear. And if there's a syntax error, then error message will be given by the program, and error message will be more clean, and also we are making efforts in the areas of tools. Tools are improved. The third party is often making the tools to make improvement of Ruby rather than core team. The third parties are working hard, like RubyMine, the Solargraph, and others. Robocop. Oh, the screen is gone. Sorry. I just can't believe this. Well, I think I forgot to charge my PC, so no battery. Very sorry about that. Yeah, I think I just turned off yesterday and I didn't charge my PC. Okay, I just would like to have a verbal presentation. I was talking about Ruby improvement, and Ruby improvement is going on, and development of Ruby is going on with Ruby. It is not to invite new user, but in order to have your value will be improved, and we would like to make current user happy. That's the reason why we are trying to improve the whole Ruby program. I think the most crucial thing I would like to share with you that we just cannot do everything by myself. In 1993, I developed Ruby alone by myself. And up until now, so many people kindly supported that, and so many people supported and collaborated. And over a long time, I myself didn't have to write program, and the member in the community actually did a lot of programming. And also, there are increasing number of people who can work full-time for Ruby, like Ruby programming. I think this is something great. And there are so many people to support the Ruby programming engineers. And thanks to these people, I'm now standing here on this stage. So many people attending the RubyWorld conference like this. It is because Ruby can create values for all of you. And as a developer of Ruby, we would like to maximize the value of the Ruby. For that purpose, I would do my best. And without your working on the Ruby to create value, there's nothing we can do. So in order to improve Ruby as a better language, we should keep going forward. That's something I'm talking every year. And I hope you'll be involved more actively, and I appreciate your further participation, like making software using Ruby or having this conference and attending this kind of conference. And also, some people can be involved in the development of Ruby itself. To the Ruby development, sponsorship will be appreciated. Some people already doing that. I appreciate. I'm so thankful to so many people who actually worked to have Ruby as a successful language, and I hope to have opportunity to work together with you. So that's all for my lecture today. I'm very sorry about the trouble of my PC. So I just have the keynote lecture, and I have been supported by so many companies, including Salesforce.com, and Network Application Research Institute actually employs me. I'm so thankful. And BitHub Sponsors is one program, and I got a lot of financial support from that organization, and also Ruby community, and all the members of the Ruby community. Since when you are here, you are already involved in the Ruby community somehow, and you are involved in the Ruby, and you have the positive feeling to the Ruby, and that's so encouraging. And thanks to the support and sponsorship, I could finally create this keynote lecture. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Matsumoto. Now, we would like to entertain questions from the audience. So, Mr. Matsumoto, could you please stay on the stage? I thought I can go. Yeah, let's have a question and answer session. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Yes, please go ahead. Please use the microphone. Please wait for the microphone. Yes, because this conference is transmitted live. So please use the microphone. Thank you. Thank you very much for interesting meeting. And I am Abe. I'm a Matsue technical secretary. And Miss number 2 or 3, you said that 10 years and 20 years from now, that a dynamic type declaration should be more popular. That kind of language will be used more, and probably that kind of thing already incorporated in Ruby 3.2 or so. So if your projection is true, how the Ruby will be in future, and do you have any ambition what to do with the Ruby if that becomes reality? Could you please comment on that point? Yes. When we have the static program, static timings, and it can be very complicated. So type information to the programming increases, then the situation becomes more complicated. So human beings don't have to deal with that. That's my impression. For example, and like integer can be given. However, integer in such program, 1 to 255 integers only will be accepted. In majority of the cases, integer, we just write integers, and with combination, there are a lot of complicated types. We can create whatever we want, and that can be judged automatically by the computer. Then the human people don't have to deal with that. That is the future I want to project. When that becomes reality, probably the Ruby program will be working as it is. However, subset for type may be added, then better performance can be done, and also the type check will be done by the computer and the compiler. And in such a case, language by compiler and the performance of the Ruby program's language. There's no difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your question. Is there any other question from the floor? Yes, please wait at the microphone. Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. My name is Yasukawa. Well, Ruby, that is a focus on value it can offer, and that is a very important thing, and I want to talk about that tomorrow. But top Ruby companies, you just show that one, the market capitalization actually that is web-based listed or public companies are many of them, but MRuby and MRubyC conference, and then perhaps there are some businesses which are quite successful in assembling these kind of programs or software. Is there any such kind of companies? Do you know? Yes, we have a lot of expectation with Ruby. And then, but there are many excuses here, perhaps more than just Ruby programmers. And then they try to do a lot of things. And then there is a very high promising project, actually 2 or 3 projects. And one of them is that is by Kyushu University spin out QC, just a research institute, and they just try to launch micro satellites. And just within 10 minutes, it can take images from anywhere of the Earth, on the surface of the Earth, and they use Ruby, and that is just a top runner. And the second one is, as we discussed yesterday, that Matsuye Juki's machine, sewing machine, custom-made sewing machine, that is also just contain a program written in Ruby. Actually, that is a practical product that is quite promising as well. And the last one is Fuji Electric, that is vending machines manufacturer. So they try to develop to just manage the vendor machines, and they use Ruby. And yes, you can find a lot of vending machines anywhere in the world, so that means a Ruby program may be working on these machines. And then, yes, a Ruby program itself is not yet installed or implemented in the vending machine actually existing on the street. However, as far as I know, they try to develop a program in Ruby and try to just turn them into C languages with some pattern tools. And then eventually they are going to just use directly Ruby programs in vending machine. That is what they said. Actually, that is only just an example of a few. That is not yet before actual popular practices, but oftentimes perhaps that may be used for many hobby-like programs. Yes, MRuby, when I just heard that yes, I'm involved in businesses which offer a lot of content created in Ruby, so perhaps I would like to talk with you later after this conference in detail. Thank you very much. Is there any other question?
Please go ahead. Thank you very much. Recently, Ruby is less popular, and I was very much concerned about whether Ruby is going to dead. But after listening to your lecture, I'm now relieved Ruby will be alive. And a lot of events held in Japan. I hope a lot of events and conferences should be deployed. And do you have any plan to do, like in Vietnam? Well, the biggest Ruby conference in the world is held in the United States every year. And the second largest Ruby conference is a Ruby conference, which is held in Japan. And the third largest one is held in Europe. And this year we had one in Finland. So already in so many countries, Ruby communities already exist and prospering. Therefore, I think you don't have to think each country, which country Ruby conference is held or not. But the country where Ruby conference is held regularly is probably just 3 places, like Japan, United States, and Europe, and other places like Vietnam and Thailand. By the way, we are going to have the Ruby conference in Thailand for the first time, so like that. Still, Ruby conference had not penetrated to so many countries. So maybe we want to cooperate with the local communities and would like to make an effort to have the Ruby community. So when we deploy Ruby a program in Vietnam, we would like to come up with some plan and organizing of the conference. I have never been to Vietnam, and I'm very much interested in visiting Vietnam to have Ruby conference after Corona pandemic is well controlled. Thank you. Do you have any other questions?
Well, if there is no more question, then I would like to close this session. If there is something you would like to just talk directly with Mr. Matsumoto, please just reach him later. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. Majority or high popularity, that doesn't mean a necessity. So you need to just respect your own feeling or sense to just discover or find out the true value. I find many students sitting in this room, and I think that is a very important message for you as well. And one more thing I need to emphasize, please remember to recharge your device. And then anyway, with this comment, we would like to just close this morning session. The afternoon session, Mr. Hazmi, Monster Lab, that is going to start at 1:30 p.m. And then if you have a place for lunch boxes, please just visit the exhibition hall of the first floor with a ticket. And you are not allowed to eat or drink here in this room. So why don't you please just go down to the first floor. And then the garbages, actually there is a garbage bin there on the first floor. And we would appreciate your cooperation about the garbage separation. And also the sponsors exhibition information, sponsors information is available on the first floor as well. And please just we expect your cooperation about mask wearing and then the hand disinfection. And from 12:30, we are going to have the presentation on the first floor by the sponsor companies. From 2030, the network, application communication, and then Relic from 2040, and the GMO Paperboard from 2050, and Tot and Bat from 1 o'clock. The short presentations are going to be given. And then also Ruby Platina sponsor companies are going to just have an exhibition booth on the first floor, and we are going to have some short introduction with a coffee break later in this afternoon. And if you need to use a translation receiver, please just contact somebody of the staff. And then if you cannot tell how to use the translation receiver, please just contact some of the staff. And then when you leave this place, please remember to return the translation receiver to the desk, reception desk as well. And then if you need a parking ticket, why don't you please come to the first floor reception desk as well. And there is a charging point as well for your devices. Thank you very much, and then let's have a lunch break here.